ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face, historic. The ABC News presidential debate. Here now, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June.
Okay, we are here. We are live, folks. And we've got two people just blathering. So instead of listening to them, you're going to listen to us for a minute while we await the main event, folks. It is time. It is 2024 presidential debates. We are under 2 minutes away. We are simulcasting on so many places right now. We got the Big Bucket Empire on Facebook, Hazard Analysis on YouTube, KOE Nation on YouTube, Big Bucket on YouTube, KOE Nation on Twitch, KOE Nation on Twitter, and of course, this sexy gentleman to my other side, this guy right here, and all his Facebooking and Instagramming, Mr. Brendan Roy.
Yes, you'll find us on Dad's Worldwide, both of us. But yeah, tonight we're to the Facebook page and to Insta. Oh, here they are. They're coming on stage. They're shaking hands.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm Tony G, by the way, folks. I didn't even say that about myself. I'm
and thoughtful debate.
so handy.
So let's get started.
So yeah, here they are.
The issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country.
Folks,
Vice
if that's
President Harris,
not
you
loud
President
enough,
Trump
let me
were
know.
elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people.
Yeah,
and
don't
that
answer
is
that
why
question.
I imagine and have
Yeah.
actually a plan to
Talk about
build
yourself.
what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that
you've
young
done nothing
families
about that.
need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner.
What is she talking about?
My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
No, I don't believe
my opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump sales tax.
That's even true.
Which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
It should be
Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna pause that for a second. Like immediately,
$50,000 for the small businesses that you closed because of COVID, you asshole.
Exactly. I was gonna say that. Like,
Boom,
this is her offering these people over the last 4 years, all the small businesses that lost their businesses, she wants them to restart. So there's some incentive there. I don't believe we'll even see those credits. So, I mean, good luck with that if you're voting for her based off of this credit for business startup.
Okay, but a business startup doesn't need $50,000 tax credit. A business startup needs capital immediately. To actually, like, if you've ever even remotely tried to start a small business, I can tell you flat out, like, the best thing that you could do for someone is capital. And I'm not saying that we should give people money, because that's also not a good way. That's allowing people with really bad ideas also to enter the market and also fail, and then that money disappears. So it's
Very
just
true.
silly. It's absolutely silly.
Yeah. We'll continue.
Well, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
Yep.
We're doing tariffs
Sorry,
on other
that is true.
countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much
You knew it
money
was
they
coming.
had.
Yeah.
It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. And they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're
I like
dangerous.
how she looks offended
They're at the
by
highest
him
level
outing
of
her.
criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get into immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well,
okay, so first, before she even tries to fumble over these words, I don't know. I didn't know he was going to dip into the immigration problem immediately, but
let's
I guess
be serious. She didn't really answer the question. She didn't answer the question, right?
No, hell no.
Question at all. So
no.
Him going left field and going towards the border, yeah, it was just a dig, because it was, of course. So, but I guess the biggest problem I have with his comment, I mean, he's right to bring up the border because and he should do it constantly. He should do it constantly because it is pretty.
Probably will every chance he gets.
Every time
he gets
to talk as well. Yeah, he should. However, he had a good economy, sure, but it was bought and paid for with printed money, like all the last ones before him. So, he just kicked the can down the road, and Biden just happened to be in there when it finally imploded. So I don't really. It's a farce. But yeah.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us.
The country was locked down.
It's fucking COVID. You shut the country down. What the fuck? I hate this fucking argument.
First public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight
not wrong, but she's wrong.
Is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
What separates us is you, is the government. That's what separates us, you dumbass. Holy shit. Well, just like he dipped into the immigration well, she dipped into the Project 2025 well. Well done, Kamala. Wow, just knocking it out of the park. It's dangerous, it's scary, and he's a bad, bad man. Boy, really
fills up. He fills up. He wants in it.
Up. It's here, Phil. You know where to find us. I have to. What the Phil? You know where to find it.
Maybe he wants to go to the actual debate.
Oh yeah, maybe he wants to go to the live debate. He wants to be in there.
That would be great. Honestly, it'd be way more entertaining.
Yeah. All right, Phil. You know where to find us. Jump in. We'll get you on.
I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone. I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you.
Oh, my God.
And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
You already said that.
What I describe as an opportunity.
That's all she's got.
And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that
I'm sure they don't have any bias.
Inflation, and by the middle of next year,
were they next to the 50
you just have to look
people
at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know
100%.
that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that just, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The vice.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
It was great. Run, spot, run.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'll give her this. Like, she's actually trying really hard to jab with him right now, and so far she hasn't fallen completely on her face. But damn. What a body shot that was. She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. It's like 4 sentences. See, spot, run. Run, spot. That's fucking amazing. Oh, shit.
The president brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country.
Doubles to its
As you know, many economists say that tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll.
Haven't had breakfast in almost 4 years.
80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out. When a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
Whoa!
Are you saying that it was a lab leak? Now are you admitting?
Oh my God! Only 4 years later, now that it's an election year. Oh, it wasn't the wet market. It was a lab leak. Oh, why weren't they more transparent? But 4 years ago, he was a racist and an asshole for saying it was a lab leak.
Because he called it the China virus.
And now they're going to champion that it's his fault that there wasn't transparency, even though he was the one saying 4 fucking years ago that it was a lab leak. Give me a fucking break. Holy crap.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics.
That's true, but
he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often...
Oh, boy, here we go. Any thoughts on what he just said? Because it was pretty much just saying she's incompetent with pretty words.
Okay, like this is the second time you said that she has no policies, and this is a valid thing because if you went to her website and looked up her policies, there was nothing there. And when she was asked about it, or one of her people was asked about it, they said, "Well, that you remember how they said Affordable Care Act, you got to pass it to know what's in it." It was basically that, like, "Oh yeah, she's got policies, and to find out, you got to vote for her." It's like,
Ooh, let's pick the mystery door.
you know, like dangle a carrot in front of it. I haven't been to her website recently, so maybe that changed, but up until recently, there was nothing. She had no policies. And when she was asked about policies on that interview that aired on CNN, there was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. It was word salad and 19 minutes of garbage. So I think he's legitimate to bring that up.
Fair. All right, they're going to start talking about abortion. This is going to get heated. I can't wait.
Get ugly.
You touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, "I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks." But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
Yeah,
therefore, why
accurate.
should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices,
genius.
we were
I thought he was
able
going to talk about
that.
himself.
Now, I believe
swear
in
to God.
exceptions for
I did
rape,
too.
incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio,
Not everyone.
the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President
Why
Trump.
did she even say
As
that?
I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprise.
So yeah, it's specifically.
So that story that he told about the governor that was on a radio show actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Dude said like, "Oh, we'll let the doctor decide what happens." There's like, no, you're not understanding me. Like the baby is born and crying on the table, and the governor was like, yeah, well, the doctor will decide, and the patient, between them, they'll decide. They're like,
that's insane.
Decide what? Like that actually happened. That is not a lie. So, so you can say that that's not a thing, but apparently some people think it's a thing, including a governor.
No, and she brought it up. That's not legal in any state. I understand that, but we're talking about people who could push that idea. And apparently, turns out these politicians are pretty persuasive because of, look at all the things that we have to do these days. Just saying. Let's not start that slippery slope. So if you really want to vote for someone who is in cahoots with somebody who thinks it's okay to, as Trump said, execute a newborn baby, yeah, by all means, go ahead. You're just a pile of shit.
Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump
How'd we get here, Kamala?
hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the
That's what the
intention
president
that they
does.
would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did
No.
exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And
Less
I
than
pledge to you,
1% of
when
abortions,
Congress passes
dumbass.
a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice.
So,
Okay, so much in there.
Back to Project 2025.
Yeah, again, which he's already disavowed several times, not even just in this debate, but like several times. So I find that to be disingenuous, but whatever, that's fine. So the rape, incest, and medical, right? Like, say it's not 10%, but say it's 10%. They say it's around 1 to 3. Like, it depends on where you are, but it would say it's 10%. That means 90% of abortions are just completely unnecessary, and it's just basically birth control. So
yeah, and that's what they're working to eliminate. People need to learn how to use actual contraceptives and not Plan B as a form of birth control.
There you go. So that's where I stand on it. This whole excuse about incest and medical and all that stuff. It's such a small percentage of actual abortions. So why I'm actually in favor. Just keep that small percentage. I'm okay with that. Why don't we find that?
If we're talking about rape and incest, and
why don't we find that 90
like
to 97% range? Why don't we work on that one, and maybe we stop killing so many babies, and then maybe our population wouldn't be dwindling in this country. So maybe then.
Yeah, we'd have a lot more quality in the population.
Jesus.
President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie.
It was Virginia.
I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states.
Agreed.
And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you
as it should be.
National abortion ban if it
well, I won't have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss,
True.
if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach.
Yeah, on point,
But
Trump.
look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
Oh,
If I
okay.
could
Sorry.
just get a
Bring it
yes
back.
or no,
So he
because
actually brought it
Attorney
back. I was
General
wondering.
J.D. Vance has said that you
I thought
would
he
veto
forgot.
it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD. In all fairness, JD, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask,
fair.
would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support
you would.
reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening.
true.
It's insulting to
It's
the
not
women
true.
of America.
Yeah.
And understand what has been happening under Donald
California's
Trump's
doing it
abortion
right
ban.
now, dumb shit.
Couples who pray and dream of having a family are
God, he
being
looks like a
denied
puppet.
IVF
Right?
treatments.
I know.
What is happening in our country? Working people, working
He's
women
falling asleep.
who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is,
It's
have
your
to
fault.
travel to another
That's
state
on you. You
to
are
get
in the
on a
White House,
plane
lady.
sitting next to strangers to go and get the
God
health care
dang.
she needs. Barely can afford to
Yeah,
do
no
it.
one
And
saw
what
that
you
coming.
are putting her through
Yeah.
is unconscionable.
Crazy.
And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and
Oh,
blue
show.
states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that
Why
question?
don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
Totally is
Just
true.
look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to
Oh,
Republicans,
here we go.
Democrats, voters
Here we
across the
go.
board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know
Yes.
the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
Thank
So I'm the
you.
only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal
Oh
organizations
my God.
for the trafficking
my
of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United
You're also the only person on the debate stage who's kept an innocent man in jail on death row and withheld evidence that had set him free. But I digress.
States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported.
3 years after
And
the
that bill
making,
would have
after you
put
figured out it was a shit
1,500
show.
more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this
Like a
comes
wall?
at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to
ran on
talk about
fixing the
immigration a
problem
lot tonight,
for
even when
Yeah,
it's not
that
the
was
subject that
literally
is
his
being raised.
platform.
And I'm going to actually do something really
Is
unusual.
she
And I'm going
insane?
to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his
Oh my
rally,
God. She's
What?
been working on that line
Oh
all
yeah,
week.
this is I really cannot wait for this. This
Did
is
you see how happy she
Oh,
was
yeah.
with herself?
she's like, yeah, I'm gonna show these motherfuckers.
That was terrible.
he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I
You're
will.
not that
Vice President
person.
Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would
So
like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason
I
to
was
go.
going to say.
And
Yeah.
the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject.
Accurate.
What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating our
pets.
The people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she succeeds, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Oh God, there it is. There's the cackle.
This
The
is,
cackle.
I think, one of the reasons why in this
Okay, we gotta pause it
election,
here. Pause
I
it here.
actually have the endorsement.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk about the bill first. Okay. So it was instituted and it was brought up in 2023 when they finally figured out, like, oh shit, we're gonna have to run again for president. And the people really are mad about the whole border thing. They, for a while they just let it go, right? Now they're like, oh yeah, we got to run. They're mad. They keep saying it's going to put 1,500 border patrol agents on the border. Okay. They brought this 3 years into the making. Okay. The other thing is How long do you think it takes to train a Border Patrol agent?
Longer than that.
4 to 6 months. One agent, right?
Yeah.
4 to 6
Longer
months.
than they'd give them. Yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
Class of 50 to 100 per month. Right.
Yeah.
So how long would it take to get to 1,500 and then have them on the border and have them worthwhile, right? Worthwhile,
Yeah.
like an actual, like, arresting.
Instead of just bodies. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. That's all I want to say. I just, it's this whole thing like, oh, it's going to put 1,500 agents on the border. Like, it's just going to like pass.
They're
and
just
then,
standing there, Brendan. They're waiting for them to just be sent. Yeah.
They're just waiting to be paid. They're just waiting to be paid.
No, you don't have to find the people, train the people, get the people. Yeah, no. It's just instantaneous. Out of thin air. It's amazing.
I really wish he sounded like a kook bringing up the dogs and shit.
A little bit, yeah. I would have left that off my response plate, but whatever.
Of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney.
Yay, war people.
Warhawks.
The inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term.
Can you imagine
when
getting
we listen to this kind of rhetoric,
Cheney's endorsement and gloating
that
about it?
affect the American people are
Yeah.
not being addressed,
It's so
think
Pause
we
for a second,
should do in
T.
this election.
President Trump will give you a quick.
Hey, Phil.
Worry not, folks, because now I, your king of extreme, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, has arrived for this debate. And grow the format, why not just name Bill Kristol? Like, yeah, that's basically the economist and the analyst that likes her. That's about it. Yep, fear porting. Yep, interesting. But anywho, folks, let's get in. I'm pouring myself some Hennessy because it's great watching Trump just have this smackdown. Trump is layeth the smacketh down tonight. He actually won the abortion answer. I don't know how he did it, but we'll get to that later. Justin, fire it up, T.
You got it.
Minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's
Nice.
were just killed, viciously and violently killed.
Oh,
And I got
that
to
was
know
a-
the parents and the
That was
family.
a good jab.
They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a
Nobody
poor
else can
job.
they?
And they never
Nobody-
fire anybody.
nobody else can
Look
be
at
a
the
book
economy.
captain.
Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president,
doesn't
sitting
have-
president in history by far.
Oh,
In history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
I don't know if that's true. Is that true?
No, he was the sitting president when he got those votes. Biden was not sitting president when he won the election. So,
But what he actually meant there is, I still got more votes than Biden. I still don't believe it.
Yeah. But Harris doesn't need to fire anybody. All her staff just leaves. Like they all.
Oh, okay, here's the thing. On Inauguration Day, when Trump puts his hand on the Bible and he gets up on speech, it is so great to be the first president since FDR to win 3 elections in a row. That's going to be his speech. You know that. You don't, like, if he doesn't, I'm going to be a little disappointed, actually. So, yeah. So, anywho, let's rock and roll, folks. Yes, Biden got more votes than Obama.
No, but Harris, seriously, her turnover in staff was about 90%.
Yeah.
She's that horrible to work for.
You know, like everybody gave Trump a hard time about
on immigration.
turnover.
That's
not something I really
earlier.
care
So let's
about
get back to your deportation proposal.
It's one thing for
that the
firing,
Vice
but it's
President
another
has
thing when
reacted
people
to
leave
as
because
well.
you're insufferable.
President Trump, you call this the largest
True.
domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that.
I love how he corrects them in a way that makes it worse for them.
Just say one person at a time. Just say one person
It
at a
is much
time.
higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
Man, he just double-legged. You're like, those stats aren't true.
Actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
Yeah,
well,
boy.
I think this is so rich, coming
so
from
rich.
someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is
prosecutors just like talk about how wonderful lawfare is.
Yeah.
On this same old
you mean defamation?
And
that's like fucking
the needs of the
Orwellian
American people.
listening to her talk.
Address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for.
Hit pause for a second.
What we must do to support our small businesses.
Like it's been well established that this is lawfare to the point where all the other charges got thrown out. They had to scramble to try to get this conviction, which I even had lefties on my own show that I used to have years ago say there's no way Trump could ever get a fair trial here. This conviction's going to get thrown out as well. Okay. There's because of the Supreme Court decision. So this is lawfare that was used to try to basically just change the idea of the voters of some swing states. And now here we have this former prosecutor that, as you pointed out, Tony, kept exculpatory evidence out of a death row case that would have actually saved someone's life. So this is somebody that's cheering on lawfare against political opponents, who has demonstrated that she is completely willing to abuse her political and legal power in a way that isn't just wrong, but borders on evil. And so when she talks about how wonderful, like, and you've had all these charges, don't you think, Trump? Like, there's a real, like, Orwellian, like, Hunger Games, Kafka-esque, like, horror to what she says. Like, I can't describe, like, there is a true unmitigated horror to the way she talks. And that was all I wanted to say on it.
Well, also, I just want to add that she also left people in past their time of release so that she could use them for free labor. And then also there was a DA just caught. I tried to look up his name real quick, but he was just caught on cam saying that, Alvin Bragg's case is just bullshit. just flat out bullshit, and he did it just for political reasons. I mean, and everyone knows this. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah. So that thing about keeping people in past their release date, like, yeah, we have a 13th Amendment for a reason. So Kamala Harris said she's going to crack down on Twitter and Facebook and social media companies and make misinformation laws. So she's going to violate your First Amendment. We know that any Supreme Court justice she nominates to the Supreme Court will undermine the Second Amendment. So there's your Second Amendment. And now she's even demonstrated she doesn't really give that much of a fuck about the 13th Amendment. So if all these amendments are up for grabs, pretty much all of your rights are up for grabs under Harris administration. So yeah, we need to stop this in any way possible. Trump 2024. T, roll on, sir, unless you got something you'd like to add.
Address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response to Vice President Harris on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about
that's completely ridiculous.
Understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court.
Did you know that January 6th
happened? The former
happened?
president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies.
You mean what you're doing right now?
Someone who has openly expressed disdain.
She's not denying it either.
Military.
She's just like, but he's going to do
what
it.
it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House.
Wouldn't that be terrible if they did back to?
Because certainly we know now that.
Get pause for a second, T.
We know JD Vance is not going to stop.
Pause. So basically, every Democrat has sort of like a Christmas jingle, which is, please don't elect Trump. That'd be a bad idea, because he might do back to us what we did to him, and that's our greatest fear. Hey! So yeah, that's pretty much, they're just afraid that Trump's going to do back to them what they've been doing to him. And to me, I'm like, fuck you. Turnabout's fair play. All right.
But we didn't even get a like, that's ridiculous. We would never do that.
No, she didn't
deny it. Yeah.
There wasn't even a
no denial.
There was no second of a denial. It was all just
it's not a denial. It's not, but he deserves it.
But he's going to do it to us if he's in there, and he's going to be immune.
And he deserves it because he's Trump. Just look at him.
Look at him.
I love it. She's self-lighting.
It's up to the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons.
You should just do that 10 more times.
Says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
You'd have to have values.
my values
Yeah.
have not changed, and I'm going to
I don't
discuss
know what
every
those are.
one of the, at least every point that you've
But
made.
I have
but
to
in
go with
particular, let's
this.
talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that
Value,
very
like
clear
as
in
in great
2020.
value.
I will not ban
Like,
fracking.
is that a store
I have
brand?
not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact,
No,
I
no,
was
fracking,
the
not
top
wish
fucking.
that
vote on the
Can't.
Inflation
we could
Reduction
actually
Act,
believe a word she's
which
saying.
opened new
That'd be
leases
nice if we
for
could.
fracking.
No, they
My
didn't.
position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance
not
on
fracking.
foreign oil. We have
Is she a
had
Republican
the
now?
largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager.
Is that even true?
The values I bring to the importance of home ownership,
None
knowing
of
not
it's
everybody
true.
got
She's a
handed
college professor.
$400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the
Hang on,
private
Tony,
sector
hit
and
pause
home
for a second.
builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3.
When you said, is that even true? It's like, Brendan, I don't have the heart to tell him that it's like in politics, people's parents are kind of like Kane and the Undertaker and Edge and Christian being brothers. Okay. It's like, yeah, it's all actors. It's all
Of
fake.
course it is. But
Like, come on. Like,
is there
who-
even
who
a
the
grain of truth to that?
who the fuck knows who her parents actually were? Okay. Like, the actors they hired, though.
The question, the question is, that is true. Like, how would you even go back and like check that?
I know.
Like, like how would you'd have to go like back to the home deeds and like find out where she lived and like start like figure out who
You mean,
purchased
wait,
it.
Kane and the Undertaker aren't real brothers?
This is bullshit.
Yeah, that's
Devon and Bubba Ray aren't brothers?
I can't take this.
Oh, this is beautiful. No, don't.
By the end of my first term, my work that is related to having a friend when I
Slow
was in high
back
school
down
who
for
was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling, the true measure of the leader is the leader who actually
Have you ever heard a more
that strength is not
womanly
in beating
thing?
people down, it's in lifting people up.
Like, I just
I
like,
intend to
it's just
be
the most
that
womanly
president.
phrase I've ever heard.
Trump,
Well,
Lift
first of
you
all, I
up
wasn't
rather
given
than beat you
$400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many
Something we won't
billions
get,
of
Frank.
dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. Please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think
Why are you
of.
shaking your
Now
head?
she wants to
Do
do
it or not?
transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert soil. These are not good things for the environment, as she understands.
Thank you.
We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy.
I used to have a cat when I was a child. Would you like me to talk about that too?
Mr. President, on January 6th,
anything I can do to beat up her
to march
time?
to the Capitol, you said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack.
You talk about
aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her.
Yeah, here.
I'm going to give it to him.
We didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
Let me just ask
you. Might ask her that question.
You were the president.
You might
were
ask
watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there.
Yep.
And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob.
Throwing up a slow-pitch softball here.
Our nation's capital. To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured. And some died.
No, they didn't.
Understand?
No, they didn't.
The president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
Oh my God, are they bringing this bullshit up?
There was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
You mean the feds?
And what did the president then at the time say?
Oh, is she gonna
find people on each side?
Oh my God.
Wow.
That when it came
God.
to
People
Proud Boys,
hoax.
a militia.
Oh my God. No one
She's
told her.
really
said, the
dipping
former
into the
president
bag.
said, "Stand
Like
back,
No one told her that was. No one told her that was a
So
hoax.
for everyone watching who
Holy
remembers what
shit.
January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country.
Oh, look at her just leering like
for
you.
our democracy,
Fucker.
to stand
I hate
for
you.
rule of law. and to end the chaos and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
Oh, she did it.
Let's turn the page on
Wow.
this. Let's not go back.
This
Let's
is blue and
chart a
on.
course
Yeah,
for the
let's not
future
go back and listen
and
to
not
every
go
time the
backwards to the
Democrats
past.
fucking
Let
talk
me just
about
follow up
blood.
here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus
Wow.
on this next issue because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look.
Nice.
All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm. Lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it.
Yeah, he's never been known to be sarcastic.
And you know this. You and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges. Many of them
no judge looked at it.
And said,
I like how they just hammer Trump all the time.
Thing.
Not once have
they said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election.
Get ready for the fake outrage.
That was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something.
Just look how outraged she is.
This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Suppress?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be
No,
clear
that's
about
not
that.
how that
And
works.
Clearly, he is having a very difficult time
That's
processing
not how that works.
But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he
Nixon
did
was
in the
fired.
past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States.
You haven't.
Just
And
haven't been to the
world
southern
leaders
border.
are laughing at me.
Yeah, just not
I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's
Unburdened by
deeply
what has
troubling, and the
been.
American people deserve better.
You know,
I was
T,
waiting
hit,
for
hit,
that.
hit pause for a
Let me
second.
I was
just say
waiting
about
for that.
world leaders.
In her head, that was a slam dunk. In her head, she thought that was just like her doing the Space Jam, Michael Jordan super stretch, making the fucking somehow a 3-point dunk. That's what she thought she just did.
Yeah.
Instead, it just kind of came out as like stammering sloganeering. Oh,
You
God.
make your own
Hey,
facts.
welcome,
They
Starman.
make more sense. Yeah.
Been a minute.
Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him.
China.
North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy.
Wow.
He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning
Oh my
now to the
God.
Israel-Hamas war
He
and the
hates her.
hostages
This is
who are
fucking
still being
hilarious.
held, Americans among
Wow.
them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got
Amber.
here. On October
Okay, hit
7th,
pause for a second. Hit pause.
Hamas, a terror.
Finally, she gets a hard question because it's basically, hey, Kamala, solve Middle East peace. There you go. like, fuck. Even I kind of have to sympathize with that one. Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, hey, Kamala, solve the fucking Middle East. Good luck.
I just
That's
feel
the
bad.
meaning of
I
life.
I just feel bad. Riker has to watch this.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh, no.
Sorry,
5
buddy.
positives.
Sorry, buddy.
Good luck.
terrorist organization slaughtered 1,200
Oh
Israelis.
my God.
And how we
Is this
got
her
here.
explaining it?
On
Yeah,
October
she's
7th,
explaining it. Yeah.
Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many
Wow.
of them
Was that
young
many?
people who were simply attending a concert. Women
No,
were
that was it.
horribly
I don't think
raped.
it was October
And
7th.
so, absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed, children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always,
Trump's
I
reaction?
will always give Israel the ability to defend itself,
now.
in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that
I'm about
Iran
to win
and its
all of
proxies
the Jewish
pose to
vote in
Israel.
America.
But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu
You know how you
and
get a
also
ceasefire?
Hamas
You
in
stop
order to
giving
get the
them
hostages
bombs.
out and prevent the
That would
killing
help.
of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror. Horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you.
Okay, hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
No. Yeah. Let's go. Why is Yemen happening? Why is Yemen pissed at the United States? Well, let's say between Obama and Trump, they were allowed to be, I don't know, genocided in their own right, the Yemeni people, by the Saudis and United Arab Emirates. So, you know, not really surprising that they don't like the United States. And now all of a sudden he's going to do something about it. So I don't know. Trump, I don't feel like his delivery on this one, his argument on this one is a very good one. I feel like he should have gone a different direction. All he had to do was say, like, if you truly want a ceasefire, stop giving them guns and bombs. And that's literally what they have to do, because Israel's only way that Israel can keep going is if we continue to give them stuff. That's it.
Here's the thing that a lot of people, and when Trump didn't use the term ceasefire, that's strategic, because here's the thing: the moderate and the conservative Israelis do not want a ceasefire, because this is the thing that everybody kind of gets, that they kind of miss about this Israeli conflict. If Hamas exists in any form, capacity, shape, or kind, that is a complete and total loss for Israel. Okay, if there's any kind of ceasefire, any kind of terms are brought to, and Hamas still exists at all, Israel has lost. Completely, absolutely, unquestionably. And so Israel cannot stop until there is no more Hamas at all. And that's the unfortunate, unstoppable force, immovable object we find ourselves here.
You can't kill an ideology.
I was about to say, have you heard of the spread of Trinitarian Christianity and Islam? There was a lot of ideologies that got ground to powder underneath those two. How many monophysite Christians have you met in your life?
Okay, but
they're all been destroyed because of Islam.
The Christian faith is still there. The Catholics,
but they weren't Trinitarians. Like they were a different tribe, and so that's what I mean. Is like it or not, actually, ideologies die all the time. And so I don't like it. But the reason people generally don't change their minds is just they get old and die. And then people's ideas change. But yeah, so to this,
by a government with more firepower. Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I don't know what the end of this looks like unless a piece of Gaza is either made into a parking lot or Israel, like Trump said, there's like shit's coming to a head in the next 24 months, one way or another, and we have to pick a side. Picking no side is picking a side, by the way. That's just picking whoever's got the bigger advantage at the moment.
All right, we're moving on.
My entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National
They just cut the mic while he's going to talk about how Biden's getting bribes.
We'll try to catch.
Why does the United States even have anything to say about a Nord Stream pipeline? It's not anywhere near the United States. It's ridiculous.
You know, you got a point there. But no, we've got to approve it. Don't you understand?
Yeah, because we have this biggest swinging dick, apparently.
Of course.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Just keep hitting 10.
Got
a little too far there, T.
I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky maybe one of the reasons I did with NATO.
President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries.
Ridiculous.
You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers.
Say nobody
that you're getting
wins
with your
in
fake
war.
numbers.
That's what you say.
Look,
just say that.
We're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for
Hang on, hit pause for a
$150
second.
billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask.
Okay, Redeemed Zoomer, a guy I follow on YouTube and Twitter. He goes, I love how heated as their debate is. They're both still arguing over who is better for Israel.
Yep.
Yeah,
Continue.
there you go.
Yeah, they're both shills for a
Europe,
different country.
like I did
Great.
with NATO.
Yeah.
They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and
Say
what I'll
diplomacy,
do is I'll
for the
speak to
love of
one,
God.
I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries.
Yeah, the smack you talk probably helped cause this invasion.
Yeah. They were going to be allowed into NATO. Way to go, dumbass.
And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence.
She might actually be
about
responsible
how he could
for this
defend
war.
himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania.
Not zero.
And through
definitely
the work
not
that
zero.
I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine.
I don't know if I'd say that.
Understand why the European
here's the
allies
thing.
and
You got to
our NATO
understand.
allies
Can I get a pause
are
here,
so
T?
thankful that you are no longer.
This is something that we all need to remember, folks. Under George W. Bush, there was invasion of Georgia by Putin. So Putin took territory in Georgia. Under Barack Obama, Vladimir Putin was allowed to take ground in Crimea. Under Joseph R. Biden, Putin has invaded wider Ukraine. Under Donald J. Trump, Putin didn't take one fucking inch of jack shit. So something to keep in mind when Trump talks about this wouldn't have happened. Having a wild card in the deck sometimes makes you play more conservative. T, you'd know a thing or two about that on poker night.
President, and that we understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence.
They're not part
Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship?
It's not giving up because it's not our war.
Who would eat you for lunch?
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fella. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hit pause.
Rules and norms,
Hit pause.
as a leader who showed.
The question is, has she ever met Putin?
Yeah. Deflecting.
And she's never publicly met Putin, but she's now not giving you a straight answer. That tells you she's met Putin. Maybe not that particular meeting, but she's probably met him.
Yeah.
Strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world
because Biden's incapable
on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander in chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible
even
jobs that he's
wait.
ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the
just gonna
first hour of the
steamroll.
debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
Oh, now
Four
throw him under the
presidents
bus.
said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century.
Bullshit.
But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated.
Did she just say we wasted all that money on Afghanistan, yet the fact that we're sending all this money to fucking Ukraine?
Wait a second. What did she say, that there's no service
That's
members?
exactly what she
where?
said. Yes. She just said
There's still
that.
service members in Iraq. There is definitely service
Yeah.
members in Ukraine. Like, what is she talking about?
I work with a guy who's going on a tour maybe in Iraq next year. What the fuck? What was
Okay.
that?
Getting out of wars with the Democrats is never actually ending the war.
We
It's just-
wasted so much money on Afghanistan. That's why we've got to send all of our funding to Ukraine.
Oh, bitch.
negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist
Crystal.
organization called the Taliban. The
Was that Bill
negotiation
Kristol?
involved
the
the Taliban
Taliban.
getting 5,000
The
Taliban are
terrorists,
people from
Taliban terrorists
Afghanistan.
released. And get this, get this.
Afghanistan is a country.
And
Like
the
you should
president
actually
at the
talk about that.
time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as
How
Americans.
dare he try for
Where we
peace?
honor
Fuck
the
him,
approach
right?
to American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And
Oh my God! It's the fucking president's vacation house. It
the
ain't
president,
fucking St.
as
Peter's
president,
Basilica.
invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander in chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying,
You know, her
you
speeches
began
would
the
be more
negotiations with
convincing
the
if she could
Taliban.
stop
So-
leering at him.
If you take a look at that period of time,
No
the
kidding.
Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban.
El Baghdadi.
And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good,
Piece
it
of
was-
shit.
we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move
And
on.
these people did the worst.
I want to move on. You're
withdrawal.
sounding too good.
And in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President
All
Trump,
right, I want
thank
to
you.
pause it here. It just it was a freak. It says you have to talk to your enemy to get peace. Why doesn't she know that? His comment. The
Yes.
freak. Yeah. So because if they got peace, then they wouldn't have the military-industrial complex spending all kinds of money. That's why. Because
then her donors can't benefactor off of it.
They were really mad at him for talking to Kim Jong-un. Kim, which one is it?
Kim Jong-un.
Un or Il. Yeah. Un. So they were really mad at him for talking to him and actually being diplomatic. Like, who'd have thought? Maybe we could have peace without beating each other up. Oh my God. Like, why? I don't know.
Because like South Korea, like it's something we don't really like to talk about. Like the third world the reason that they can't ever build up their agriculture is because we dump aid grain, which destroys their local agricultural sector. And South Korea is kind of the same thing with military industrial complex surplus. It just kind of gets dumped there, and that's where extra military arms can just kind of make its way to is to South Korea. So it's kind of that. So when peace in South Korea and North Korea would be devastating for the military industrial complex, probably part of the reason he wasn't allowed to win last time.
So they ended Afghanistan, started Ukraine. Boom. Like that. Because money needed to be spent.
Well, okay, Brendan, you know how most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? Our government's now living war to war.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's shit's tough all over, man. Okay.
Gotta get them all moving. Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, we're all hurting, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight.
Oh, no.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
So happy.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have
God, it's a tragedy.
Wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Yeah, this is just an underhand pitch to Harris from ABC.
So much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he used to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
No.
Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution.
This has already been debunked.
Who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people
are still sour over that one.
Want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all
She
the
just
time.
puts them in jail. That's the...
Can we please just have
He
discourse?
just puts people of all races in
how we're
jail
going to
and holds them
invest in
past
the
their
aspirations and the
release
ambitions and the
dates.
dreams of the American people. Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what you just said.
Trump wants seconds on this one.
Years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Yeah, Harris does kind of do the. I never knew no Biden.
Clearly, I'm
I
not.
never knew
Biden,
no Godfather.
and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
No, you
One who
don't.
believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism
Oh, is
about
she gonna
what we
do the
can
line?
do instead of
You gonna do
always
the line?
God, I
disparaging
hope.
the American people. I believe in what
Say
we
it.
can do to strengthen our small businesses,
Say
which
it.
is why I have a plan.
Our
Let's talk
democracy.
about our plans and let's
Excited
compare
for
the
what could
plans.
be,
I have a
unburdened by what has
plan
been.
to give startup businesses
Say it.
$50,000 tax deduction.
Say it.
To
You know you want
pursue
to.
their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan
Bullshit.
that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American
So
dream.
$6,000 for
offering
people
a
who give
help
birth
with
next
down
year.
payment of $25,000
Yeah.
down payment
It's
assistance
not really
for
the
first-time home buyers.
windfall.
That's the kind of conversation I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have to
policy.
move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsey
to respond
Graham.
because
President Trump,
the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just need to
move on,
respond.
Vice
One
President.
time
Shut her
is what
up.
he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also
didn't even
known
get
as
to
Obamacare.
respond.
You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things,
Yep.
we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some
Except
real
for all the
bad
ones you
ones too,
fired,
and so do
yeah.
they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money.
You're looking at different plans, but it's the worst plan ever. So use one of the multiple plans you fucking come up with, and it's automatically better, right? Sorry.
And
It's
be better
not the
healthcare
federal
than
government's job to
Obamacare,
do this
then
shit.
I would absolutely do it.
Well, that's why I don't get it. This is what pissed me off at the end of
Not their
fucking
job.
2020.
Open up
I-
across state lines. Healthcare everywhere. Boom. There you go. Becomes less expensive.
Yeah, there you go.
Stupid.
I don't get it. Like, this is one of those things that should be so simple for him to like knock out of the park, but he's never like blown me away with an answer.
But
Yep.
until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not
That
president right
okay.
now.
Well,
But
all
if-
right. That was a major fucking L right there. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah.
Tony, I'm starting to
Sorry.
think Trump's not quite like going to release his 2016
Yeah.
health plan.
Yeah, I think that
I'm
I'm
starting
working
to
on it.
think.
Working
I have
on
a
it.
plan of a plan to make a plan.
I won in 2016. I won again in 2020. They stole that. But, you know, it's 2024, and now I'm still working on it. You know, it's only been 9 years. I'm still working on it.
Well, you sound like-
Obamacare, worst thing ever. Anything I come up with would be better. I still don't have anything, but it's been almost a decade. But we're working on it. What the fuck?
He gave his
I
first
will.
Harris answer there. I will give you that.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
we have the concept of a plan. Like that's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm
I'll give
gonna
you that.
plan on making plans to make healthcare plan better plan. Exactly. Fuck.
Yeah, but it's also kind of like
we
asking
come up
Harris
with
to
something,
solve
I would
Middle
only
East
change
peace.
it if we come up with something that's better
No,
and
it's
less
not!
expensive. And there are
No,
concepts and options.
it's not, Phil. No,
Fuck
it's
you,
not.
man. There's some people
No,
that would
it's
rather
not.
try to solve Middle East peace than American health care.
I gotta say
Fuck
though,
you.
Tony just sounded like a Kennedy. It was really weird. He sounded like Teddy.
No, it's not. Absolutely not, Philip. No, how dare you? I will not have it.
Solving Middle East peace versus making healthcare affordable in America. No.
Because we have
Middle East
to do
peace
that,
might be
and you'll
easier.
be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about
You don't have to
taking
say
everyone's guns
former.
away.
He's still a
Tim Walz
president.
and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop. With
You
the
lying
about this
fucking
stuff.
bitch!
She just said she wants an assault weapons ban. She just said it a few days ago.
Yeah, definitely.
Literally just said that in the last week.
To the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero.
How
The
dare
late,
he
great John McCain, I will
besmirch
never
the
forget
good
that
name
night.
of John
Walked onto
McCain.
the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the
never saw a
ability
war he
of
didn't
insurance
like.
companies to
So
deny
many
people with
plans,
pre-existing
though.
conditions. I
Have
don't
all
have to
the
tell people watching
plans.
tonight. You remember what that was like?
The tremendous
Remember
plans.
when an
Some would
insurance
say the
company
best
could
plans.
deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug
now
prices
she's in the
on behalf of
administration.
you, the American people.
Yeah.
Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now
First
we have
time
capped
she
the cost
hasn't
against
done
them
that.
at
Never knew no
$35 a
Godfather.
month.
Did what
Since
he
I've been vice
did.
president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Pass this
President
prologue
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's
Strengthen the
important for a
Affordable
lot
Care
of
Act. It's
mistake.
not affordable.
Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years, but it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But
Then
she
do
will
it!
improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants
doesn't need
everybody
to
to be on
respond to
government
this.
insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that
Yeah.
we'd like to get to that's important
Yeah,
for a
let's
number of
get to it, 'cause
Americans, in
nothing he
particular
said
younger
doesn't matter
voters, and
now.
that's climate change. President Trump, with
Oh,
regard to the
thank
environment, you
Christ.
say that we have to have
We
clean
got
air
there.
and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The
Holy
question to
hell.
you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Fight it like
Well,
it's
the former
Captain
president
Planet
said
or
that
what?
Climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that
You
it is
just
very
said it.
real. You ask
Snip it
anyone
out.
who lives in a
There's
state
your
who has
soundbite.
experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy
nothing
to the
to do
point
with
that
you.
we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes
Nothing the made in
growing
America, you
what we can do
dumbass.
around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing
the
them
point.
like happened under Donald Trump.
This
Yeah.
gives answers that make
That
you
didn't
want
happen
to check
under
your
Donald Trump.
phone.
Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing
kill any auto worker
is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia.
Okay.
The mayor of Moscow wife.
So I'm going to say we're moving to the third round here. First round, I'm going to give to Trump handily. The first hour was very Trump. Second hour, he did kind of stumble. Harris didn't win. Just Trump tripped over his own dick a couple times.
Oh, he was beating the piss out of her until healthcare. And then concepts of healthcare. Well, no, even before that, he was starting to like skip words and sentences. So I would say that if there was anybody that wanted to give Harris any points, you could maybe give it to her in the second, basically between commercial breaks. Yeah, it wasn't like a 10-9 round. It was just
it was very close. But now we're going to see closing statements to see who walks away with the W here in the final round.
I think he hands down won both the first and second hand. It's just man, he really has never answered the healthcare well.
I'll never forget when Biden was getting ready to be inaugurated. Trump is boarding his Trump Force One to fly to Florida. And as he's boarding, I send to you and Chicken, and I think you were in that chat too, Brendan. I say, guys, starting to think Trump might not release his healthcare plan. I'm starting to think.
And it's election.
Not the federal government waiting. This is not the federal government's responsibility. This is like the furthest thing. Like it's the same thing with abortion. It's not in the Constitution. You do not have the right to.
Well, then, Brendan, you should have loved Trump's answer about like, all right, we have concepts and plans. We're just going to try to not fuck with it now. So we at least know what bullshit we have.
No, he should have said this is a states' right issue. And just like abortion, it's going to go right back to the states.
Yeah, because he knocked that out of the park. I mean, he drove home.
That's it. Listen, Trump, I'm available. I can give you advice. I'm right here. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm a freedom-loving human being. If you need me, come get me.
Like, watch that be the thing. Like, Colorado votes in just like statewide health care. So it's like Nebraska's like, fuck it. Just drive to Colorado, get your shit done.
Do it.
Phil, is it kind of masochistic to hope that they ask both of them how they're going to reduce the childcare
cost of childcare? Oh, God, I'll never forget in that Biden-Trump the get to the child. How do you lower childhood cost of childcare? And Trump goes, now let me tell you, Biden sucks. He's the worst. He's absolutely terrible.
His golf game is terrible.
Yes, his golf game sucks. He couldn't beat me in a golf game. And then Biden comes like, no, he's the stupid. And then, okay, thanks. Thank you for that question. Now moving on to like Middle East or something like that. Tony pauses the debate, turns to me and goes, boy, I sure feel confident about the cost of childcare going down.
Oh, yeah.
We got two old men arguing about their golf game.
Now we've got an old man and a fucking bird brain.
But again, childcare, another thing the federal government should have nothing
irrelevant because they're going to be asked about it.
And especially
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
President, especially
what
the
they
president.
could do is just lower taxes.
Yeah, that's
We'll give you a tax credit. We'll give you another tax credit. We'll
Here's
give you
the
another
unfortunate
tax
reality,
credit.
and Brennan, you would have to begrudgingly agree with this. And everyone, like, our currency is fiat printed, and they could just make it up out of air. There's no reason they need to collect taxes at all.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different
Yeah.
visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward.
Oh God, say it.
But we're not going back. And I do
You gotta do
believe
the
that the American
up
people
here.
know we all have
Unburden
so
it.
much more in common than what separates us. And we
Unburden.
can chart a new way forward. And
Unburden.
a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the
Excited for what
dreams,
could be.
the hopes, the ambition
Do
of the
it.
American people, which is why
We're
I intend to
unburdened.
create an opportunity economy, investing in
Say
small
it.
businesses, in new families, in
Oprah
what we
want
can
you to
do
pay for them.
protecting seniors, what
Right.
we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining
it.
America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now
You were
vice president. I've
horrible
only
at
had one
it.
client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never
Fuck
asked
you.
a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's
I'm
the
a
kind of president
communist.
we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris,
She's
thank
unburdened
you.
by what
President
has
Trump.
been.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what
We
happened to
play
us as a
golf
nation.
much
We're
better
not
than
a
Joe
leader.
Biden.
We don't have any idea
You
what's
hear
going
that?
on.
He's talking to
We have
Russia.
wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars
At
going
Camp
on
David,
with
even.
Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of
And
weaponry.
if it's my
I
war, it'll be the
rebuilt
most
our
best
entire
war, the most
military.
tremendous war.
She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from
Why
here at
hasn't she
Philadelphia
done it?
National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank
He
you for
actually
watching
made out
News
really
Tonight.
well getting the last word.
Yeah, he did.
Good night.
Yep. Now, I do have to say, Trump this evening had a very daunting task where he had to debate his opponent and Kamala Harris.
Oh, no, no.
This
This was not, no, this
They were
was
fucking
not.
soliloquying for Harris what her answer. Don't you think it's terrible when Trump said this thing about you? How does that make you
This
feel?
was not the fucking 2020 bullshit. No. He actually, when he got offered the fucking chance to respond, he got to. They were trying to move past the shit, and he wouldn't let them, and they shut the fuck up and they let him talk.
They
That's
did
the big
shut Harris
difference.
down at one point.
And
just
they
straight
shut
up
her
with-
down. So this was
Yeah.
not even close to that debate.
But no, like I'm talking about the questions, how they were so leading. Like,
I know.
Trump, why did you
know.
viciously, evilly say this thing about Harris's race? And Harris, don't you feel so victimized and terrible? And how would you like to soliloquy to the American people about it? Like
But
that's.
then also,
And then there were
after
some
his
foreign policy
answer,
questions like that.
after his answer, they're like, also, just know that that's not true. Okay, Kamala Harris. Like it was just like they would actually chime in on his answers, but not hers.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so it was
fact-checking
quite and so again, I give Trump credit for debating his opponent and Kamala Harris. That was that's never easy. Now your King of Extreme does it all the time and does it easily, but that's besides the point. Really, folks, remember there is another option, but we'll get into that here a little later. But so, guys, let's grade this. How do you think each particular candidate did? I will let Brendan. Or would you like me to go first?
I don't care. Whatever. What do you want to do?
Okay. The way I would grade this is kind of like an MMA fight, where Trump very strongly took the first hour. The second hour, I have to admit, Harris did she did and we need to do the facts and the values and our democracy in America and the values.
She was there on January 6th.
And did you know that January 6th happened? Did you know that it happened?
And I was there.
I was there.
I think this didn't move the needle for anybody. I think the Republicans think Trump did amazing. I think the Democrats are going to be like, oh my God, girl boss. But you didn't really have that girl boss moment. Trump kind of stole the, excuse me, I'm talking. Remember that? And so her big girl boss moment she wanted kind of got stolen, and she was mad. And then Trump actually won the abortion discussion. Do you remember that? Yeah. I couldn't believe it myself. I thought, oh, no, when the moderators went, and now, Mr. President, we're going to talk about abortion. You could almost see Trump go, oh no. But then he just knocks that out of the fucking park. So I got to give him credit on that one. But I'm going to say the second hour, that is, if you're going to give Kamala anything, it would be the second hour. The closing statements were almost a wash. So it's really how strong do you think the first hour was versus the second hour? And to me, I think a lot of people are fighting boredom towards the second hour. So I think as much as the concepts of plans line was a flub, I don't think it's going to have as big of impact, mostly because by hour two, you're kind of fighting boredom. Yeah. In the debate. And so most people aren't political wonks like us. So like Chicken's son Riker, he checked out before that even happened. Most people did. Most people watched Trump curb stomp Harris on abortion, and that was pretty much what most people came to see. So I'm going to say Trump's strong showing in the first hour is a little more powerful than Harris's showing in the second hour. And like I said, closing statement's a wash. So if I were to judge it, Trump wins it by a point or two. But I will admit, Harris did stay in the fight. So that's how I grade it, like an MMA fight. So I give Trump the edge, mostly because he made the impact when the most eyeballs were on him.
Okay. Brendan?
Tony? Tony or Brendan? Who do you...
I would say, I agree. I think Trump definitely edged in front. As far as the Israel talk goes, I feel like that was a wash. I think they were both pretty shitty on that.
Oh, no, Trump did great with the Israeli lobby. Trust me.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the Israeli lobby's winning, they're winning in this whole that discussion, right? Like that the lobby is like, yeah, it doesn't matter who wins, we get them both. Like they don't give a shit. So the Israeli lobby loved it. I thought it was pretty garbage, but so for me it was a wash. So I would say Otis says Kamala won. Well,
yeah, people who are on the left are going to be thinking, "Oh yeah, she did great." Me, I'm like, Trump did amazing. He hit all the
She said all the things I wanted her to say, so she wins.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He hates it.
Actually, so I think
He hates her. That was great. That was beautiful. Trump made people laugh. Okay, Harris had no laugh moment.
He hates her. So I think she was well polished. Obviously, she's been practicing because if you saw the interview on CNN compared to tonight, it's night and day.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely she definitely did better. I think I think you're right, Phil, as far as by the end, like people are checking out. But I think Trump having the last word, like I said, I think was huge.
Yes.
And if people are paying attention, actually watch till the end, that was pretty good. It was pretty good. So, but I thought her bringing up Charlottesville and pretty much every garbage thing that they tried to throw at him.
Yep.
Although
that was in the second portion.
Although that, okay, so I guess you have to look at it in two different ways. Like in our respect, right? We understand that those are garbage things and already proven wrong.
Yeah.
But if you're on the left with your head in the sand, you're like, yeah, January 6th,
exactly.
Charlottesville, yeah. Cops died on January 6th, which didn't happen, right? So they're cheering that, whereas we know that's garbage. It's absolute garbage, So
that's the thing. Yeah, they nailed a home run on everything that they already have indoctrinated people into believing.
Was that the second or was that the first? I feel like that was.
I think no, that was in the second because I was like, there's so many weird things that happened in the second. Like she brings up Charlottesville, she brings up the Central Park thing. There were so many things that she Project 2025 in both the first and second portion. But also, he was talking about people eating people's pets and shit, and I'm like, all right,
but
that was weird.
Okay. Like I didn't want him to bring that up, but that may actually be accurate. You know what I mean?
Might be.
It might be accurate, right? Like, but it wasn't.
I don't know that I bring it
by
up
how much
way.
the left is freaking out and trying to say that's been debunked. I know nothing about it, but it leads me to believe there might be something to it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's probably accurate. I'm just saying that it made him, even if it's accurate, it made him looking kooky. You know what I mean? Like, that's just
exactly
from a outside.
I don't bring it up because it just, even if it's true. Why are you bringing that up? Like you could have easily nailed that answer without that.
So
like I was putting oregano on your cupcake. You don't need that.
I would give it 2-1 Trump, and I would really I would honestly having a hard time thinking of like the one for her, other than the fact that she's just like a polished turd, because I expected her to do a lot worse.
Exactly. That's where I'm at. Like
Democrats have such low expectations. It's almost hysterical.
Well, that's just it. Like she was expected to just tank, and I'll give her that. Like you said, like you both are saying, like she did better than we expected. She was able to navigate the debate from start to finish. She stumbled really only a couple of times, and they allowed Trump to kind of take over responses, and they even shushed her once, and it was pretty apparent who was winning. I think pretty much 80% Trump won in the response department.
Well, they want him to interrupt. Let's be serious, because they can be like, "Oh, did you see how many times he interrupted?"
Well, no, they just wanted to give her a chance to go, "Excuse me, I'm talking."
Yeah.
That was what they really wanted, and Trump never gave it to her.
That's good.
And so, she was so pissed when they found out, no, they're going to mute the mics. I wanted to do so. But now, folks out there, there's something you need to realize, though, on this debate. These aren't the only options, Trump or Harris. There is another option, one that I don't know if you're aware of, and that is Phil KOE.
Old town where the stars shine bright. Folks gather around on a summer night. They stand tall for their beliefs. Never
the most beautiful 90 seconds I've ever seen.
KOE Nation, that's how we play.
Is that gorgeous? No.
With boots on our feet and the flag held high, we sing songs of freedom meeting clear blue sky. From Main Street to the fields, we work and we pray. KOE Nation, we're here to stay. Red, white, and true, our colors unfurl. Through thick and thin, we conquer the world. Patriotism runs deep in our hearts.
And I'll kiss the babies.
KOE Nation, where nobody ever cries.
Folks, 2024, you be sure to vote Phil KOE for president. For a better America, for a better world. Phil KOE.
KOE Nation, where nobody ever cries.
So remember that, folks, in 2024, if you are sick of either option, Trump or Harris Biden, you write in Phil KOE in your ballot. Be sure to take a picture of it, post it on Twitter or wherever you can. And folks, yes, be sure to follow all election laws. But yes, definitely do that, folks. Now, KOE Nation is going to take over this amazing nation. If you are unsatisfied with any of those answers, keep that in mind. Now,
a little strange.
If you are a Democrat,
yeah,
yes.
I appreciate that. That was a perfect opportunity to show that. And you can go to the vote. Phil, if you have the page pulled up, you should pull up the Facebook page of Vote for Phil KOE in 2024.
I will get that here shortly.
So I was gonna say, like, I felt like Trump won the debate, but even by basically boycotting the debate, Phil won the debate, and that's really that's how that went. No, but just to summarize, I think Trump won the first portion very handily. I think the second portion really came down to Trump was better at the responses, even though they both had some really weird answers. She got off of her rehearsal a little bit, stumbled a little bit, and he was able to improv way fucking better. It was clear watching this thing from start to finish that his is all impromptu, off the cuff, in the moment. Hers is all incredibly rehearsed, incredibly expected. She knew exactly what she was going to say to everything, except when she didn't. And then, the closing arguments was literally Kamala saying, I'm unburdened by what has been, excited for what could be, but in like 2 minutes. She just stretched it for 2 minutes. And then Trump not knocked it out of the park, but drove it home like a one-hit nail into the wood. Just hammered it home. So definitely a Trump 3-0, in my opinion.
All right, so
and
there you have it, folks. I mean, the moderate normie himself, Tony G, and the fierce libertarian independent, Brendan Roy, and the resident right-winger extraordinaire himself, Phil K. Now, guys, don't worry. I will send this into right-wing headquarters to let them know that we got some folks that are at least a little more down. But this is the Phil KOE for President 2024 Facebook page. Definitely join this.
Top if you can.
That is the top, sir.
No, I was going to say, do you have the URL?
Cruz would make history being the first Canadian to be elected president of the United States. Vote Phil KOE. Wow, that's an old one.
That was a 2016 campaign ad. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So let's
everybody
see.
needs to go to this and definitely join in because
these
were my god, I forgot about the classic 2016.
Everything is wrong with our culture. Everything that is wrong about government. King of Extreme.
I forgot about the 2016 campaign. That's what I made.
Phil Lauber, the alternative choice, the only choice. Vote Phil in 2016. Wow, look at that baby face.
Oh god.
Trump or Hillary? Top socket or bottom socket?
That one's still great. Oh
Thanks,
my god.
Obama. Oh, okay. I don't know what that one is. Little did Donald Trump. Wow. They devised a crafty plan to get through his wall. A Trojan pinata. Yeah, I wasn't even in charge of this. I didn't have a Facebook
Go back.
page.
What was that last one? That was an actual Phil KOE quote.
My father had a saying, don't curse a farmer with your mouth full. My new phrase is, don't regulate a farmer with your mouth full. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. Don't curse a farmer with your mouth full. That's what my father always said. And so, yeah, don't regulate a farmer with your mouth full. That was for the 2016 campaign. Yes.
I need to start making some 2024 campaigns.
Well, I mean, Tony, funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned 2024 campaign propaganda. I mean, campaign. Let's go with
totally
material.
Not propaganda. Oh God,
this, folks, is the original Phil KOE for President 2024.
God bless America. God bless this glorious land. And because this land is so glorious, it needs a new president to match that glory. And that person is Phil KOE. Yes, Phil KOE in 2024. A man who truly loves America. A man who loves this nation and the people in it. Phil KOE, the true alternative in 2024. The man you all need. A man of the nation. A man of the country. A man of the people. A man of nature. A man who is going to point us to a brighter tomorrow. Yes, Phil KOE. He is a man of decisive action. Phil KOE. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is for America. I'm going to do that for you in Washington, D.C. Whatever that is, you're going to get a lot of that.
Yes, folks, Phil KOE, a man who will make sure to dot the I's and cross the T's of American government. Phil KOE, he will make sure to preserve your freedoms to work on go-karts on the weekend or whatever you call fun in this glorious nation. That's why you need to consider Phil KOE.
And that, folks, is why I am asking for your vote in 2024, folks, because I, your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, have officially announced my candidacy for the presidency of the United States of America. Beautiful, beautiful flag. Old Glory is coming with me, folks, and we're going all the way to Washington, D.C. If you're tired of business as usual in D.C., do the right thing. In 2024, vote extreme. Phil KOE, the choice for you, the choice for me, the choice for everyone within all sundry. Folks, God bless every last one of you, and we're taking this all the way to Washington, D.C. in 2024. Vote Phil KOE to fix D.C. Yes, folks, it's going to happen. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be glorious. You're going to join me, the Cabinet of Extreme. Our inauguration party is going to make the Jackson inauguration party look like a debutante ball, folks. It's going to be amazing. Old Glory's coming with me. What else do we need? God bless all of you beautiful people. Travel well, and in 2024, vote Phil KOE.
Yes, folks, vote Phil KOE to fix DC. This echoed so loud during recording, pretty sure my neighbors half mile away were freaked out. I resemble that remark, sir.
I think that's probably true.
But yes, vote KOE to fix DC, folks. Yes, so if you're tired of what you saw from either party, remember there is another option. So
there's always another option, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
and I'm just so glad that Phil is finally on board with everybody voting for a
third party. Yep, I'm on it.
Yep.
You know,
nice.
We will see how this goes. Now, T. RFK Jr. did ultimately endorse Trump, but we'll see how, there is that option though. I'm not suspending my campaign. I'm not doing either, because if Trump and Harris tie at 269, giggity, giggity, then we will end up going to Congress to decide who will become the president of the United States. And that leaves a non-0% chance of Phil KOE becoming president.
I wish that weren't true. But it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's like, yeah, at that point, I'm just driving there like, hey, I'm running too, motherfucker. Throw me in there.
I'm right here.
I'm right here. You can vote me in.
Yep, you can vote me in. Nobody likes any of them? No? Two wrongs make a right KOE. Yeah, it makes a KOE right. Yeah, two of them being wrong makes KOE right. Well, now here's the thing. Most people are usually wrong, and it usually ends up that Phil KOE is right. That's really the proper way to look at it, like more often than not.
I'm just so glad we could make a 2-hour presidential debate about Phil for that.
Well, it's a tragedy that was only half of it.
That's true.
Yes. But I do have to say, gentlemen, this debate was quite the encounter, because boy howdy, Harris is just fucking leering, just fuck you leer at Trump. We're gonna see in the coming month, because like I said, it's gonna be about September 15th to the 19th is when we're gonna start seeing our first actually useful, and maybe close to honest polls. Because like with Harris, like any positive polls you saw of her, that's also kind of the fresh new toy syndrome. So when the new toy wears off, which usually takes about 3 weeks, then we're gonna get back to normal.
Yeah,
Tony,
I don't think she did anything to hurt herself within the Democratic Party. Like she didn't look like Biden. She said all the right buzzwords, right? Like she accused him of being a felon.
This didn't move the needle really. All this did was like Harris needed to not look like a chump.
Yeah, and that's what
now
I'm saying.
where she got cut off and had to shut up. She's screaming at people right now as we speak. Like, who the fuck let her cut me off? And like, yeah, that like people are getting fired over that right now. Yes. And so like that is Tony G is the opposite of Walls as VP. LOL. Yeah, Tony's never even ridden a horse before. Okay, like he's gonna be and he doesn't come
that.
Like he doesn't come across as a just fucking creepy weirdo.
I would never come across a horse.
Again, another you and Tim Walz, just oil and water. Okay, what can I say? What can I say? Giggity. That's terrible.
Yeah. I think like what the freak just said. Like I think that as far as like her and the Democrat Party, like as long as she wasn't Joe Biden and she wasn't that weirdo cackling thing that she's been the last 4 years, then I feel like people are going to support her more than. Will it move the needle significantly? No, I don't think so at all. But I think she's not going to lose.
She's not going to lose any support on this anyway.
Yeah, right, for sure. Like she's not the people that were thinking about staying home might actually vote. Like that were Democrats, not like independents. I'm saying just Democrats. I'm saying
that's a W for Harris then, if that actually pans out.
Well,
let's be frank. Like. If she gets people that weren't going to. Now
you said it, Phil. This didn't move the needle for anybody that was undecided.
I don't think it's a huge move, but I don't think she's alienated any Democrat people. You know what I mean? Like she hasn't convinced people to stay home.
She legitimized herself to her tribe.
Exactly.
Her political tribe.
Yeah,
now, I do want to say Tony added something on the bottom. I'm just going to subscribe to Dads Worldwide on all podcast platforms. KOE Nation on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Twitter-X, all Tony G content at Linktree/Tony the Rod, Big Buckin' Empire on Facebook and YouTube, Hazard Analysis on YouTube, and also, folks, what the hey, check out Sutton Community Church on YouTube as well. It's my newest YouTube project. Let's see how that goes. But we also have aren't we Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast on YouTube and Spotify as well, Tony? I mean, we actually left one off.
We're not usually very political.
We've been a
little
we've been a little derelict. But
fair, yeah.
We will have a grand return come Survivor Series.
Justin wants you to take a shot so he can vote for you in November, Phil. Here it is. Here it is, folks. This is what you came to see, all right? It took 2 hours, but it finally got there. Phil KOE, for the people. He is a man of the people, and he gives the people what they want. And what the people want is Phil's belly full of gin.
To fighting, stealing, and drinking. If you're going to fight, may it be for a friend. If you're going to steal, may it be a lover's heart. And if you're going to drink, by God, I hope it's with me. God bless America.
How good is it?
What was that? Was that gin?
It was gin. That's gin finished in a bourbon barrel.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
It's even worse.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
they somehow found a way to make it worse. It's terrible.
I thought maybe it'd be better because it'd have like a bourbon.
Yeah, I would think like, oh man.
No, it somehow sucks more. It's like it's kind of like it was like a comedian who talked about describing the insane clown posse. It's like, okay, it's like the opposite of Bigfoot because you're thinking, wow, that's not real, but it would be awesome if it was. It's the opposite. It's real and it sucks. It's fucking terrible. It's like, yeah, it's real and it sucks horribly. Yes, that's yeah, it's the opposite of Bigfoot, okay? That's like, hey, Alesto, how we doing, good sir? Okay. That was spectacular. So, Brendan, we've all grown. Now, before we wrap things up, I got to ask you, Brendan.
Yes, sir.
Last time around presidential election time, we had a little debate. A certain Brian something or other, and then another guy where I'm wondering, sir, perhaps we should try for another debate between the three of, or if you can at least definitely get Brian, the guy who is for the Democrat guy. He just was basically reading Biden's website. So if you can get a guy that can read Harris's website, that'll do. Or somebody that.
It would give him significantly less ammo because there's
I was gonna say there's nothing there. There's nothing there.
Oh no.
Phil, if I can Brian would probably do it. I'll contact him, but the other guy, I don't know. But yeah, I'll definitely
try to find a Democrat of some kind then, because I just need to tell the people of New Hampshire how much they need to vote for either Trump or Phil KOE. So that's now actually, Brendan, next time around, the next presidential election, I hope, like, you never know, life's weird, but I want you to keep something in mind, because next time around on the primary ballot, you may actually see my name in your state. Because I don't know if you know this, in order to be on the primary ballot in New Hampshire, it only takes to fill out an FEC Form 2 and give $1,000 as fee. And so for $1,000, you can have your name appear on a primary ballot if that's something that you need. Like, and I was telling some folks about this at like just a party. They're like, really? Well, it's for people who just like, for the sake of their ego, want to say, I ran for president. And so,
sounds right up your alley.
I will I will actually be a legitimate ballot presidential candidate 2028, folks. But we don't need to worry about that, because America is going to write me in so heavy in 2024 that when I assume the White House,
heavy flow. Yeah.
Brendan, you are going to be my border czar. And that you're going to do that for a year. And then I'm going to make you the head of the ATF for a year, and then I'm going to make you the head of the IRS for a year, and then for the final year of my first 4-year term, I'm going to make you the chairman of the Federal Reserve for a year. Can you do you see where I'm going with this, Brendan? Do you see what I'm doing?
There's chaos.
Burn it all down.
Yeah,
Bring it all down.
So yes, Brendan, there's a reason why you only need to be there for a year. Now, Brendan, you and I both realize that the only way I'm going to be allowed to keep my office is if the head of the DOD is Dick Cheney's floating brain in a jar. And if I make it Dick Cheney's floating brain in a jar, they're going to force me to stay in for 3 terms.
Well,
okay, like I'm right. It's like
you got to do what you got to do, Phil.
Like it's like, well, okay. If I appointed anyone else, I was going to get 1 term, but because I've stated that it will be Dick Cheney's floating brain in a jar, that's the head of the DOD budget. No, like I didn't even want to. They made me stay for a 3rd term, so no, I was president for 12 solid years. Like I don't know how they got it. Like I wasn't even campaigning. It just fucking happened. Like I was like, no, I don't want to. They changed like the Supreme Court just said, no, fuck you, you have to. I wasn't campaigning. The people still voted for me, apparently, allegedly. So yeah, that's now. Oh, I do gotta say before we go, Trump tonight just straight up said, nope, fuck you. I didn't lose the election. Fuck off. Now don't get me wrong, his base, red meat. For moderate normies, could have been better. Okay, like I'll be honest. That might have been like, because that's the only thing that's bad about that is that's him looking back, not forward. Okay, that's the only reason it's a negative. Yeah, he is burdened. I am burdened by what has been. Okay, yeah. Harris, I don't get to just be, I'm unburdened by what has been. All of us are very fucking burdened by what has been. All right, you're like, yeah, all of us, folks.
Fuck, Phil. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Phil, I'm sorry. We were trying to get out of here. You rambled on, and you just caught yourself in a corner.
No, it's for Phil Dealer's choice. I get to decide who gets to drink.
No, that's not how that works.
Alesto, do you want me to drink or do you want Tony to drink?
Pretty sure that's Alesto.
I'll take a shot of gin, but Tony also has this god-awful Sweetens Cove whiskey that he fucking hates. It's terrible. It's like he's going to have a worse reaction to it than I am with gin.
That's not true.
No. It's totally true. It's 1,000% true. But yeah, that, like, I'll never forget, like, Rush Limbaugh one time said, like, the only reason why things like that are negative is because you don't want to look back. Okay, you don't ever want to be looking back. Okay, that's why he said
she wasted her final thing that she said on her catchphrase and just somehow managed to spread it out into 8 sentences.
Like how
Bill drinks 1, Tony drinks 4.
I have to work in the morning.
Then maybe you shouldn't have talked so much shit. But I will pour 1 shot. Tony, you pour a quadruple.
Yeah, so I think really ultimately, like, Trump only gave me hesitation twice, and that was the stupid healthcare answer that he had.
Sweetens Cove tea.
And that was, I mean, I think
I have the concept of something. Okay. Yeah. Like that, I immediately thought back to my joke about, like, I'm starting to think Trump's not going to release his healthcare plan.
Yeah.
Now, when he wins election in 2024, and then we get to election night 2028, where J.D. Vance is running for president against AOC.
Yeah.
And Trump, and then that election gets over, I will also be, again, Tony, dropping you the joke,
I don't
starting to think Trump's not going to release his healthcare plan. Yeah, that's we will see. Because like you said, Brendan, you got it. Cross state lines.
Yeah, so the other one was just the Israel answer, and I just thought they were both silly. And but that's my opinion. I think that we should be not handing Israel all kinds of munitions and that type of thing to continue what they're doing. So those were my 2 big hangups with Trump. As far as she goes, she was a polished turd, as I said before. It was all platitudes, and she has nothing to run on, so she gave what she could give.
Yeah. Tony, how much was that?
That was like 1.5.
Balls. I thought you were gonna say, "Oh, that was for it." No,
It's like sandpaper going down, and that's not because it's a high proof. It's because it's terrible.
All right, T, pour yourself another 1.5.
I've got more.
Okay. Cheers, Slanjiva.
No, I agree, Freak. They were just as weak. I'm just saying that like his were not good either. Like they were both pretty shitty on that one. But they also but it was just like who's gonna support Israel more? Like that's all it was. It was just gonna like both.
I support now.
Yeah.
Trump always is gonna have that one.
Yeah,
I moved the fucking embassy. Okay.
Yeah, and they're murdering civilians like on the so
now, Brendan, we're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about that. That's really inconvenient. They're really inconvenient that they're murdering.
Because what basically,
yeah, we'd hate to inconvenience him.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh
yeah,
God,
that'd just be horrible.
Yeah,
because like basically, like I was wondering if one of the I don't actually no, I don't have no fucking Merlot. I don't have any fucking Merlot.
Malart, we're gonna get him some Malart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like I will like I was half expecting one of the candidates to go. Oh, there we go.
Oh wait, that's a little low. I really just want it gone.
Oh wow! Okay. Show how full that bottle is.
Oh my God,
it's like 2/3 or more.
Okay, this is the last one. Oh,
it's awful.
Like now, Brandon, you'll love or hate this, depending. Freak, Donald Trump is a preventative maintenance president in that regard. Like, yeah, just in terms of peace, he's preventative maintenance. Yes, but I was half expecting one of the candidates to just go, now, if I'm elected, Israel. Now, when she did 2-state solution, she blew it. But like, I was expecting one of the candidates to go, all right, if elected, Israel, we're just doing this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Oh, what a lovely parking lot you have here in Gaza Strip and West Bank. Wow. That's a lovely parking lot. How did that get there? Well, yeah, like I was kind of almost expecting kind of like that. But no. Now the 2-state solution is a complete non-starter. Like as far as Israel is concerned at this point, because like Brandon, like I said, they're in this impossible position where if Hamas exists in any way, they've lost completely and entirely. And the deaths on October 7th, they will truly feel were not avenged. And so that's where we're at. So, oh God. I was actually recommended to put that into the budget bourbon bracket sometime.
We clearly have to get some Malort. Tonight's the night you fight your dad.
Wow! Oh man, fuck you!
I suddenly want it.
Yeah, that's
okay. I might have to dig them up first, but yeah.
Folks, we laughed, we cried, we talked about late-term abortion in Israel. We've all grown, and we found out about Merlot that will make you fight your dad whiskey.
Wow.
Like, you know, that's kind of up there with
same thing tonight. Congratulations.
Okay, that's up there with I shit you not. Tony will back me up on this. Brendan, one time the Nebraska State Fair had as its official logo for the state fair, and it was on billboards all over the state. It was half a picture of a guitar, and then the caption on the billboard read, for the Nebraska State Fair, "Come see bands you thought were dead." The people who ran our state fair thought, fucking print that, quit drilling, you've hit oil, okay? Like, come see bands you thought were dead. And I'm like, well, what bands are those? It didn't even say what bands. It just said,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, you thought they were dead. So, like, yeah, that's who comes to the Nebraska State Fair. Is bands that you're like,
what if someone goes to the fair and be like, I didn't think any of these people were dead.
Yeah,
like, I want my money back.
Then you realize that's when you realize you're old.
Yeah.
I didn't realize these people. What do you mean? What? No, this is hip new sounds. Like actually, my daughter told me about a year ago. There's nothing less hip than using the word hip.
That's true.
It makes you sound like, wow, that's groovy. Remember when your parents would call something groovy?
Old time radio.
Yeah, that sounds like I'm going to listen to some music. Like, yeah,
me and my best gal are gonna go for a milkshake in the old T-Bird.
And I also found this is the one phrase you can say that will, for anybody under the age of like 20, make you sound like you're a billion years old. Okay, this is the one phrase. When I was your age, this was all cornfield. Like, yeah, you're just like, wow. And like that. So when you say that to anyone under the age of 20, they think you're like Gandalf the fucking Grey in terms of wisdom.
But it's true.
Like, yeah.
And I do remember when it was
definitely Nebraska specific. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, because I do remember it being all cornfield. I really do.
Yeah. And like when I take my grandma to Lincoln, that was the second biggest city in our town. That had like almost a couple 100,000 people. Brennan, almost biggest city in our state. That's the one.
Oh.
But we'd drive grandma around. She's like, oh yeah, when I was little, this was all cornfield. And I was just like, wow, it just sounds like dinosaur. Like, Lord. Now, gentlemen, before we
ramble, now that we're
proceed on to our varying evenings, Brendan and Tony, I do have to say, Brendan, I have issue with you, sir.
Okay.
Tony has been cheating on me with another podcast.
I don't know what you're referring to.
I don't know how
you don't.
Found out,
you don't, huh?
Audio podcast.
Yeah.
So you think I wouldn't read the texts? I went through Tony's Spotify. Okay, I found it, Brendan. You two have been podcasting together. Do you even have virus protection?
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. But I got you on the Spotify.
Brendan, who else have you been podcasting with? We need to run an Adobe antivirus through their computer.
Yeah.
Make sure that they're virus free.
Protection.
Yes, we need to make sure. Like, I'm sorry, but
I gave Tony Plan B when I was done. I feel like this is okay. Yeah.
He gave me the Flintstone chewable vitamins.
Yeah, that gets rid of everything. Yeah.
So, Brendan, what that does mean, though, sir, is as the jilted, excluded third party, that does mean that when Hazard Analysis kicks back off in its grand re-debut, we are going to need you to come by, Brendan, and I'm going to have to guilt trip you for me discovering this infidelity, for you to also come on to Hazard Analysis once in a while. Sorry, that's how that works.
As a soon-to-be father again, Phil, you'll probably have to make another appearance on One Dad's World.
Yes, this is true.
It's a great way to segue into the shilling and the outro.
Yes. I mean, like I am, like I will say, yeah, I've got a baby on the way. I just got married a little over a week ago, and got a baby on the way. I work fast, folks. I work fast.
You do. It's amazing.
That's not exactly how that works. I'll leave you.
Kamala Harris couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, could not. It's tremendous. The effort was tremendous. It was the best ever. Best conception. No conception's ever been better. So, but
wait, Phil is pregnant.
I've been really craving some different foods lately. It's
Dad's intergalactic reaches far.
Yes. But on that note, because of that, I am going to go up and spend some time with my pregnant wife. So, folks, as I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us here at Big Buckin' Empire. KOE Nation on YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. Thanks for joining us, Dads Worldwide. Thanks for joining us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch. Thanks for joining us on Hazard Analysis on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on all the varying platforms you can find all of us. Folks, I am your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes it the podcast cower. Be sure to tune in wherever you are getting this content again next election night. Folks, be sure to also subscribe to my Twitter feed, KOE Nation, where you can find all of the great varying thoughts that are now Tony G and Brendan are unburdened with. Because it used to be these two guys that would just get it in our Facebook side messenger. Now they are unburdened, and that burden is now upon all of you beautiful people. It needed to be more like, yeah, there's more shoulders that needed to bear the burden of my genius. Okay, so folks, God bless every last one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. KOE Nation, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. I'm never above shameless self-promotion. Brendan, Tony, thank you for starting the show, by the way, without me. I really appreciate that. And take it away, gents.
Yeah, just your humble 16-time Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion, quadruple distilled, non-chill, filtered, your blend master of ceremonies himself. You can find me at Linktree/Tony the Rod on my social medias and podcasting iterations, such as the Big Bucket Empire, the Dog and Chicken Show, the Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast, Hazard Analysis, and of course, Dads Worldwide. And for Furture Shilling of Dads Worldwide, let me hand it over to Brandon Roy.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on once again. Yes, I am your most humble host of Dads Worldwide and Dads Intergalactic and Dads Intercontinental. I mean, we're there, we're everywhere, and yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me and letting me simulcast with Big Buckin.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
Always a blast.
Are they going to do another debate?
No, they're not going to.
Yes.
They're not going to do another one.
Let's hope they do. And
I
if
hope
they do,
I really hope they do. But I think
do
I think she escaped unscathed. I think she's going to counter. She's going to just try not to do another one. I think so. That's my call.
Yeah, I would agree. I hope.
Yeah,
they do,
Trump's
though.
got two more lined up, but yeah, Harris is going to try to avoid them.
Yeah.
Let's hope they do. And if they do, we'll be all back here on all the varying things we just shilled. And we will catch you all on the next one. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Great turnout. Catch you soon. And, of course, subscribe to all those things we shilled numerous times. Please go now. Do it. Go do it now. Go do it now. Get to the chapel.